Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from Raindrops143. It was a mix of the entitled parents subreddit and insane parents subreddit as well, and it was titled, "My parents are stalking me because God told them." I'm a 24 female, and I live on my own out of my parents' house. I have a bit of a situationship going on with my friend. We call him David, 24 male. We had a fling a few months ago, and now it's kinda happening again. It started out just hanging out and enjoying David's company, then it slowly turned into more again. The thing is, my parents knew about the first fling. David used to be inseparable from my dad. They were like father and son in a way, until David and I had our fling. Now my dad is trying to control him, telling him he has to have no contact with me outside of a group chat we're all in. We think this is stupid. A few weeks ago we were hanging out and we went to Five Below to get snacks and just hang out. While we were there, my parents walked in. They don't live in the same city as me. I live about 20 minutes away from them, and they just randomly showed up at the store right by my house. They claimed it was to find batteries. At that point, my dad confronted David and said that he had told him not to be around me, and he told me he isn't going to care anymore and not to go crying to him when I get heartbroken. My mum texted me later saying it was totally the Holy Spirit revealing that something was happening so they can intervene. I'm kind of glad that happened because after David and I left, that opened up a conversation about what's going on between us. We both enjoy our company and we both have feelings for each other, but we're taking it slow. While we were talking, my dad is texting me 3-page essays on why I'm stupid for not doing as he says and that he is no longer invested. He told me David only wants me for one thing and he doesn't care about me as much as he does. And that if David is in love with me, he'd ask him for permission to date his daughter and play by his rules. David told me he really does care about me and that it's a lie that he doesn't. Anyways, we decided to continue hanging out, especially since my dad said he no longer cares. We both have annual passes to Disneyland, so we decided to go together after work. While we were there, my mum and dad texted me asking if I was at Disneyland. I ignored their texts. We were there till closing, and as we're walking out, my dad walked up to us with a Starbucks bag and asked to talk. David kept walking and said no, and of course me wanting to keep the peace begged David too, and he said no. I told him I'm his ride, and he said he'd just get an Uber, and I told him no. So I just left my parents there and left. I cried in the car and David told me it's not my fault. While I was in the car, I texted my mum how she knew I was there, and she said, God is watching. And I asked again how she knew, and she said she'd meet me at my house and tell me, and I said no. You will not meet me at my house. That's weird, mum. How did you know I was at Disneyland? She stopped messaging me, and then my dad messaged me this. OP, if you want to know how we knew you were there, you can talk to us in person. We brought peace and we tried to be loving, even though I knew David was doing stuff that he said he wouldn't do. I just want him to care for you as much as I do and your mother does, but you're gonna find out, honey, and it's really sad. He had every opportunity right there to confess his love for you and to ask us for space. We could have had a good discussion, but instead, he was a coward and ran away. From here on out, you are not to come to my home. We can meet in public to talk about how we knew you were at Disneyland because we had every intention of telling you, and that was going to be part of the conversation. I've never lied to you and I never will. I do not have anything to hide. That conversation could have been great, and we're still willing to have it, but David sadly is not. I did nothing to him to deserve the treatment that we got from him, and I've never treated him any way other than I would treat a good son. I hope and I pray that he doesn't do what I know he's going to do. Wolves come into the sheep and they separate the sheep from the flock, and then they devour the sheep. But the good shepherd will protect you, and if David ever was a sheep, he will listen to the voice of God. The people that love him and cherished him. I love you, OP, and I wish nothing but the best for you. If you want to talk, we're willing to talk to you about anything you want to know. I responded with, Dad, I don't expect him to be in love with me. That's way too soon, and if you don't want to hide the truth, just explain how you knew I was there. I would not be meeting in person for a conversation that can be heard over text. He responded with, then don't meet me. This is how it's going to come out because you need to see my demeanor and everything. And shame on you guys for trying to point the finger back at us. You guys are the ones that's not doing right and hiding. Literally every box that was checked for you to like David was erased by David. All the things that you liked about him are now gone, and it was by David's own hand. OP, from now on, do whatever you want. I'm cutting this pain off. I mean it. Don't come by my house because we will not be able to support your drama any longer. You're going to have to learn the hard way again. The only difference is now your mother and I are numb and we don't feel anything. God will show the truth, but I wanted to make sure you weren't hurt in the process. OP says, I don't care if I meet with them or not. I can't handle the helicopter parenting anymore, and I feel that anytime I've ever brought a boy around, my dad has to place himself in the middle, forcing the guy out. The guys that have been okay with it in the past end up not working out because of my fear that if my dad can control him, now my whole future will still be controlled by him. If I don't do it their way, then I'm doing wrong. I really like David and he likes me. I'm 24 years old, and for once I have a guy that doesn't run away from me because of my crazily super involved parents. I don't know what to do. What I'm concerned about is how my parents followed me there and why. I just don't know what to do. Any advice is greatly appreciated. Thank you for reading as much as you did, and please, any suggestions would help because I feel alone right now. Now, straight up, I would say I wouldn't meet them in person at this moment in time. You know, it's easy for me to say as always, but no contact seems to be in order in this situation. They're trying to get that face-to-face meeting to manipulate you further, using religion to manipulate you. And somewhere along the line, they have either an app on your phone that's tracking you, or they actually have a tracking device on you somewhere along the way, or they're literally following you everywhere you go. I think a tracking device of some sort is more realistic, but I gotta say, fair play to David for not playing along with that bullshit. He's just like straight up nope. And I think with these people around you, you're never going to be able to live your own life. Your dad's always gonna have some wild ass way of involving himself, trying to control you, like expecting boyfriends to ask permission to date you when you're 24 years old. He's never going to let you grow up. A commenter said to OP, check your car for a tracking device. If they have keys to your place, change the locks. There is something very wrong with them. This level of stalking and harassment is concerning. Adding in the religious aspect of it, it sounds unhinged. OP says this all happened last night, so I'm going to be spending the day looking for anything like that. They didn't have any keys to my place, thankfully. The commenter says, are you 100% absolutely positively sure that they don't have keys to your house? Was there any opportunity for them to get your keys long enough to have a copy made? I would change the locks as a precaution. OP says, yes, I'm sure. I have roommates and they know boundaries when it comes to that. Just when it involves a boy, they are gung-ho in knowing where I am and being in my business, but when it comes to my household and work, they keep away. So you think. Commenter says, there was a tracking device somewhere on one of you. Do they not want you to ever have any relationship, or just to force you into one of their choosing? OP says mainly it's my dad about the relationship thing. He wants it heavily chaperoned. Like his way he wants it, the first 3 dates are double dates with my parents. Ooh. He tries to enforce no kissing. He gets very personal with the guy, asking him questions if he's still a virgin or not, and asking him what his intentions are with me. He will basically tell the guy what to do in the relationship, and if the guy doesn't, then he is a coward and isn't good enough for me if he doesn't do what my dad tells him to. I let my dad have it his way once, and the guy at the time was really nice. After we got the green light to date, I realized, wow, I don't like this guy. I wanted it to end, but I felt bad. For years after I ended it, my dad would tell me that I need to bite the bullet and settle for that guy. My dad said he liked him because he respected him. No, he liked the guy because he could control him, and in turn, me. If I don't do it his way, I'm called horrible names and cut off, but not really because he can't control me if he cuts me off. It's a thing I've dealt with my whole life. Commenter says, OP, your parents are wrong about everything. Internet search, manipulative abuse, coercive control, liking cults. David is making appropriate sense. You don't have to choose between them. You do have to do the adulting work of separating and individuating. You trying to force him to talk to your parents at Disney was fucked up. OP says, I know, I just get scared. I didn't want to talk to them either. I'm learning to not cave, but it's hard after 24 years of control. I'm glad he didn't because it showed me I don't have to if I don't want to either. OP edits that post and says, thank you to everyone who gave advice and suggestions. I decided I'm going to let myself settle for a few days. I'm going to agree to hear my parents out just to know how they got my location. As controlling as they are, I still love them, and I can say with certainty that they've always been honest. My dad said he will tell me how they found out I was there in person. I'm going to give myself a few days to get my own nerves and emotions down. I'll post an update when that happens. Honestly, thank you everyone. It's nice to see I'm not crazy and that I'm not a terrible person. It's reassuring to see that this isn't normal behavior, and I can't thank you all enough for that. It gave me a bit of peace of mind, to be honest. Thank you for all giving advice to a no-name person on Reddit. Edit 2, I text my dad and told him I'd be willing to talk within the next few days. He then told me I need to find a new phone provider. This is the last bill I have connected with my folks. They pay for it in their account. I just pay them back for my line every month. I think that cancels them out tracking me via phone provider, especially now, since this is another attempt to control by using fear of cutting off a service I can very easily get on my own. I looked for any AirTags, I couldn't find anything. He still refuses to tell me how he tracked me unless I meet with him, my mother, and our pastor at our church. OP comments saying, I've known this church for 16 years. My pastor has stuck up for me when I needed him. He stuck up for me when I was being physically abused and brought that to a stop. My dad is the uber religious person. My pastor has always put him in his place. Just to clarify that aspect a bit more, it's people I trust to look out for my well-being. So, OP comes in with an update and says, I met them today. My pastor and his wife had my back 100%. My dad told me how they found me. I guess I was still sharing my location with him on my phone through messages. He said God revealed that he still had my location. My parents then drove to my house to see if my car was there. Saw David's car there. We carpooled to Disney, then waited outside of Disney till we left. I told them that's freaking weird and makes me uncomfortable. They said they did it out of love because they were concerned. Basically, my pastor and his wife are 100% behind my back. I'm assuming that's like backing OP up. Regarding dating who I want, not letting my parents decide. I should have the opportunity to decide if I like the guy first, one-on-one, then bring him to meet my parents. It's a little different because we have all known David for years, but still have the right to decide when my parents will be involved. My dad did not like this. He said he'd leave the church and then blocked me on all of his social medias. He said he can't stand around and wait for my heart to get broken, and the whole time he was trashing on David. He called me a few names that were extremely hurtful, and I was glad to see the pastor at my back. They told me that I'm no longer under his roof. I'm not doing anything wrong. The conversation ended with my dad claiming he wants to go no contact, which I'm sure he won't follow through on. It sucks. I love my parents, but in my dad's eyes, if he can't have control over this aspect, I don't get him at all. And that's probably how it's going to be for a while. Thank you guys. OP comments on someone talking about the memories of parents. OP says, I do have lots of great memories with them. That's how it is living with a dad with crazy bipolar tendencies. 1 second we'd be laughing and having a great time. The next I'd be getting beat because he thought I'd be copying an attitude. My mum just let it happen because she was just as scared. Someone says, how did you not think to check if you were sharing your location? OP says I stopped sharing on my old phone. While I was out with him before, all this drama, my phone broke and I had to get a new one. I was in a bad part of town and I shared my location with my dad because although he's a piece of shit, he'd be the first person who would show up if I needed him. Accidentally shared indefinitely, and not just that day. Yeah, dumb mistake on my end, but it's not shared anymore and I'm zero contact. You live and learn. Someone said to OP that, their dad sounds like a bit of a perv and OP is a bit naive really. And OP said, I used to get beat. I used to get my face punched, my fingers bit, my hair pulled out of my head. When he stopped beating me, I was conditioned to be okay with the controlling nature because at least I wasn't getting hit anymore. It's difficult, but I'm learning it's not okay. It's just hard when that's all you've known all your life. So yeah, I'm kinda dumb, but I'm walking away now. So around a month later, OP went into the Insane Parent subreddit and was actually posting screenshots of the text exchange between her and her father. As part of it is like what we've covered previously, but there's new parts of information in the text as well, new text in there that wasn't in the previous part. So I'm going to read this out. But as always, it's timestamped if you want to skip certain parts of it, etc. But there is some eyebrow raising stuff that comes from the father. So, I set a healthy boundary with my parents. They're no longer going to decide who I date and how we date. I'm 24 and they literally showed up while I was on a first date with a guy who I've been friends with for years. My parents wanted to chaperone the first date. We said no. We both have Disney passes, so we went to Disneyland. They waited outside the park for us to leave and walked up to us and literally demanded we speak with them. We declined, and this was the text exchange between my parents after. OP said going home. Mum said, we left a while ago, we tried to surprise you with desserts. OP said, how did you know I was there? Mum said, that's what we were trying to talk to you about. You left. OP said, how did you know I was there? Mum said, that hurt my feelings to see boyfriend act like that, when we were just there to love on you both. OP said, how did you know I was there? Mum says, we'll meet you at your house to explain it. OP says, no, you will not meet at my house. Mum says, okay, good night. And OP says, that's freaking weird, Mum. How did you know I was there? Mum replied, that's what we were trying to talk to you guys about, but boy left really rude and you could have waited and heard us out. You guys refused to talk to us. OP says, you're being rude. You guys are stalking me. Like, how did you know I was there? This is weird. Honestly, how did you know I was there? Then the dad comes in texting saying, OP, you want to know how we knew you were there? You can talk to us in person. We brought peace. We tried to be loving, even though I knew boy was doing stuff that he said he wouldn't do. I just want him to care for you as much as I do and your mother does, but you're going to find out, honey, and it's really sad. He had every opportunity right there to confess his love for you and to ask us for space. We could have had a good discussion, but instead he was a coward and ran away. From here on out, you're not to come to my home. We can meet in public to talk about how we knew you were at Disneyland because we had every intention of telling you. And that was going to be part of the conversation. I've never lied to you and I never will. I do not have anything to hide. That conversation could have been great, and we're still waiting to have it, but boyfriend sadly is not. I did nothing to deserve the treatment that we got from him, and I've never treated him in any way other than I would treat a good son. I hope and I pray that he doesn't do what I know he's going to do. Wolves come into the sheep and they separate the sheep from the flock and then they devour the sheep, but the good shepherd will protect you. And if boy ever was a sheep, he will listen to the voice of God, the people that loved him and cherished him. Another text says, I love you, OP, and I wish nothing but the best for you. If you want to talk, we're willing to talk to you about anything you want to know. OP says, Dad, I don't expect him to be in love with me, that's way too soon, and you don't have to hide the truth, just explain how you knew I was there. I will not be meeting in person for a conversation that can be had over text. Dad says, then don't meet me. That is how it's going to come out, because you need to see my demeanor and everything, and shame on you guys for trying to point the finger back at us. You guys are the ones that's not doing right and hiding. Literally every box that was checked for you to like Daniel was erased by boy. All the things that you liked about him are now gone, and it was by Daniel's own hand. Rain, from now on, do whatever you want. I'm cutting this pain off. I mean it. Don't come by my house because we will not be able to support your drama any longer. You're going to have to learn the hard way again. The only difference is, now your mother and I are numb, and we don't feel anything. God will show the truth, but I wanted to make sure you weren't hurt in the process. Good night. OP says, I don't feel comfortable that I'm being stalked by my parents. That is wrong. That is a breach of trust on my end. It's not just your feelings that are on the line here. I have feelings about the way you're handling things, and showing up uninvited isn't fair to me. Dad says, that's not what we did, but you can listen to boy all you want. What's uncomfortable for me is having a boy say that he doesn't like my daughter and then continues to be around her and kiss on her and take marital rights. Even last night, I was wanting to look past all that and try and start afresh, but he cut everybody off. That's uncomfortable, but you're going along with it, so that's your problem, not mine. OP said he asked for space for now. I learned you don't push past that. That makes people not want to be around you even more. Someone said to OP about going no contact with him. OP says, I'm no contact kinda. Only reason why it's not completely no contact is because my little brother still lives with them, and I get worried about his safety and mental health. I'm cordial with my parents for my brother's sake, but that's it. About the brother, and says he isn't a child, but he isn't financially ready to move. He plans on moving next year, so I don't mind waiting for him to be ready. On why OP posted here. I just wanted to post the screenshots of the actual text exchanged. It's the same boy. I just didn't properly censor his name, and at this point I don't care. This happened back in October. I'm currently going steady with the same guy. I just summarized the scenario that happened for the sake of readability. It was a whole ordeal that lasted a long time, and quite frankly, yeah, it feels like there are holes because there were still things I'm not sure about. Currently, I am low contact, for my brother's sake, until he moves, then we're both going no contact. About how they found her. It wasn't AirTags. They literally drove to my house, saw I wasn't home, and waited outside Disneyland looking for us. Yeah, crazy people. My parents had my Disney pass on their phone since we used to go a lot. She saw I had a reservation to go in that day, but didn't know when. When they checked and saw my car was gone, they went to Disney. Already talked to customer service and got the pass off their devices. And OP also confirmed it was also to do with the Disney pass and the location sharing as well from where she left it on previously. 3 months later, OP comes in with another update and says, well, I didn't think I'd be here again. If anyone saw my original post back near like November, I think that was the whole context backstory of it. But long story short, the guy I was seeing, we decided just to be friends, and honestly, he's my best friend. I was sad about it though when I told my dad that me and him were done in that regard, and he actually acted like a dad and comforted me. It was nice. My dad slowly came back into contact with me, and things felt like they were going back to normal. Until I got a text from my friend telling me my dad was blowing up his phone saying he hated him for stealing his daughter's virginity, which is not what happened. I'm a 24-year-old female living completely independent with no help from my family. I mean, I don't need to tell my dad about my sex life. It isn't his business. I already lost my V card, but he doesn't need to know that again. It's not his business. I said something though because he kept accusing my friend of stealing it. So I text my dad, and this was the text exchange. I'm now completely no contact. That was his second chance. After everything I've been through, he will not be getting another chance. OP says, my friend didn't take my virginity. What the hell is wrong with you? I never told you I slept with him. I never told you I had any sex with him. All I said was it could lead to a pregnancy the way things were going. I never once said I slept with him. Stop whatever crazy tirade you're doing because you hate him for taking my virginity when you don't even know. This is disrespectful to me that you're speaking like this about me. You are hurt. This is hurting my feelings a lot more, thinking my dad thinks I'm a whore. And going off more on my friend is by no means going to help the situation. Ignore him and leave him alone. Imagine how my dad is now that I'm at work. I randomly get a text that my dad thinks my friend stole my virginity. It makes me feel dirty that you're even speaking to someone about my virginity. It's none of your concern and it's between me and God. You don't know, nor will you ever know who takes my virginity or not. And that is not for you to decide other than me and when I'm ready and married. Talking to my friend about this stuff isn't going to make him magically want me. It's going to push him away even more from me. You need to literally stop and just vent your feelings somewhere else. I don't want to be in a position again where I'm choosing between people. Stop being like this. Dad responds saying, OP, the conversation I'm having with him is between us. I'm only saying what hurt me and your mother, and we should be able to share that with friend. This part is none of your business. If you don't like it, you don't have to be around me and your mum. Trying to make things right with friend to restore everything, and that involves truth. Otherwise, I will go back right where we were, which is not having a relationship with you guys until you're ready to get right. You threatened me and your mum, acting like we were begging you to come back to church, but that is not the truth. The truth is, we were letting you guys cook. From your responses to me, clearly you are not done. If you want to run off and do what you want to do, go for it. It's going to be hurtful and painful out there. It's literally none of my concern at this point, and everything I said to friend was supposed to be between me and him, and it was solely focused on how he hurt me and your mother, and how to get back to where he was with us. Nothing to do with you. I only read your first text, and I'll read the rest when I have time. OP responding saying, do not discuss my virginity. He didn't take my virginity. I don't care what you think or assume. He didn't take my virginity, and don't claim that he did. Dad replies saying, don't tell me what to discuss. My assumption was he did take it, and that he hurt me as a father, especially from him who I trusted. Believe it or not, I have my own feelings, and in order for me to get right with him, I have to express the feelings that I have. Don't tell me to stuff my feelings. OP responded saying, you don't have any right to discuss my body, virginity, anything. That is me. Dad responds saying, when you're ready to talk to me as your father, then we will talk. Otherwise, don't text me no more. OP says, you can talk about me as your daughter, not someone's sex toy. Dad responds, the reason why I'm saying that is because you're bringing fire instead of actually trying to understand my perspective. That's not what I was doing if you read my text. OP says, you're telling my friend you hated him in the moment because he stole my virginity. Forgive and forget and move on. He didn't steal my virginity. He didn't take my virginity. I didn't give him my virginity. Your perspective is wrong. Dad said, these are my exact words, and this is the last time I will share with you that I'm speaking with him in private. OP says, I don't care what the rest of the stuff you think. That part, you are very wrong. Dad shares the message he sent to the friend saying, Proverbs 28:13. He who covers his sins will not prosper, but whoever confesses and forsakes them will have mercy. Then says, I hated you after you turned your back on my peace that I offered you at Disneyland, and I hated you even more when you took my daughter's virginity without committing to her. The Bible says that if I hate another, I've committed murder, and so I confessed to the Lord my sins, and he forgave me and encouraged me to love you. Even though you took something from me, that was one of the most important things that my daughter had, and that I wanted to give to her husband. You also did it under my nose, and I called you son. I'm sorry that I hated you. I also called you a coward, but you're not a coward. I choose to believe that you were just afraid, and you're still afraid to make things right with me. There's a big difference between cowards and being afraid. I feel sorry for you, and your fear takes over and cripples you. You must, through Christ, overcome this giant because it has the... And OP cuts off the message there because it goes on and on a bit, but OP replies saying, I don't need to see anything else. He didn't take my virginity. So if you want to actually fully restore that relationship, make sure you don't accuse people of something they didn't do. Dad responds, then don't bother me if you don't care. Fine, I'll never speak to him again. I don't want you around me either because you bring drama into my life. I will not be responding anymore because you don't want to care about your mother and I, and all you care about is your own selfish ambitions. Goodbye, OP. OP says, I said I don't need to see anything else, meaning I just want to make sure I'm not being slandered. Accusing someone of taking my virginity is a big thing, Dad. And in reply to Dad's last text saying I do care, meaning I don't need to see the rest of the private conversation between you and him. Dad replies saying, I mean it, OP. Don't come around me and don't speak with me anymore. I'm done with you. You're partially to blame for the loss of a friend in my life, and he is the other half of it. I don't want to see you or him. I'm done being kind to your stupid ways. You can come back with me right now with fire, but just know that I don't care anymore, and that was the last straw. A commenter says to OP after this, you're responding way too much to this. Your father is disgusting, and the fact that you have 10 pages of screenshots defending your virginity to him is too much. OP says it was more so trying to defend my friend in the best way I could think of, and at the time I was emotional, so yeah, I did respond way too much, I agree. I'm completely no contact now. Commenter in response to OP about her being the Disneyland poster and saying, geez, I remember that story. It's absolutely wild that you're a fully formed whole-ass adult and he or they think you aren't capable of going out with friends without supervision. You've given them all the chances they're ever going to get now though, right? OP says, yeah. One of the biggest things holding me back from no contact was my brother. He's 22, still living with them, and when I initially did no contact, my dad told my brother he had to go no contact with me as well or he'd get kicked out. For my little brother's safety, I tried to make it work, but this made me sick to my stomach. Our brother understands, and we found out a way to secretly be in communication. We're looking for a place for him, and if worse comes to worse, we're going to get an apartment together because he wants to cut ties with our dad as well. Commenter says, if you're not already, you may find some catharsis from the ex-evangelical sub. I think there's also a sub for pastor's kids somewhere, in case that's relevant. He certainly sounds like the type. OP says he isn't a pastor. Even the pastor at our church thinks he's a psycho. And someone says, is the friendship still okay? OP says, I'm still close with my friend. He knows I'm not doing this. My dad is the crazy one. It's my dad I'm done with. Gee whiz, what a disgusting, horrible person that dad is in this situation. And OP mentioned in one of the last comments there that she is going no contact. And I really, truly hope that she does stick to it. Because there was a lot of coming back into their lives and hugging and thinking that he's changed. He's not going to change. That behavior is not going to change. But as always, I know that's very easy for me to say. OP's had 24 years of this. She's conditioned to think this is somewhat normal. She's grown up to receive physical abuse, mental abuse, being controlled and manipulated by this absolutely vile person. And then the dad talking about virginity was giving those purity culture red flags in there as well, all preventing her from forming healthy adult relationships and enabling him to control her time and time again. So again, I really do hope that OP stays no contact with this person and eventually the brother gets out of that situation as well. He clearly knows what's going on and I can't even think what he might be going through at the same time right now. Absolutely terrifying, but there's a little light in there that OP hopefully has gone that way. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.